Hi again to everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Nyambura Mbugua. I am a communications consultant based in Nairobi and also the co-author of the International Civil Society Center's annual report on digital innovation. I will be the moderator for today's digital dialogue. I am an African woman with an afro. I am wearing glasses and a blue shirt with brown patterns and a gold necklace. Today, we'll be putting the spotlight on how to move from consultation to co-creation with user communities. Joining us today, we are delighted to welcome Ibraheem Saleem from Code for Pakistan. Ibraheem is Code for Pakistan's Director of Fellowships. He is a developmental sector professional with a strong background in e-governance, public sector innovation, and Gov 2.0. Ibraheem oversees the civic fellowships and internships at Code for Pakistan. These are technology-focused programs that allow young technologists to engage with the government in Pakistan and build various civic tech solutions. Welcome, Ibraheem.
Thank you so much.
Sorry. And then secondly, we have Rafael Diniz from Rhizomatica. Rafael holds a PhD in computer science. He works for Rhizomatica Communications and leads on the HERMES project, which aims to provide connectivity to isolated Amazon rainforest communities through an innovative telecommunication system, which uses the high frequency band to connect to these communities. I've had the absolute pleasure of working with Ibraheem and Rafael before on the innovations report. So I'm very excited for them to be able to share their projects today. And finally, our third panelist is Fadia Elgharib from Global Innovation Gathering. Fadia is passionate about connecting communities and finding the best knowledge sharing systems to help empower societies using existing technology. She truly believes in the role of digitalization in transforming society's living conditions. Fadia was a practicing lawyer in Cairo before changing gears to do her master's in media and cultural management in Germany. In her role as operations and community lead at the Global Innovation Gathering, she works to bring innovators from the global South and North together by organizing real life and online events. So today, each panelist will be giving their input in 5-minute slots, and then we will have some discussion and questions towards the end. I will now hand over to Ibraheem, apologies for before, to get us started. And please remember to start with a brief self-description.
Thank you so much, Nyambura. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone. I'm Ibraheem Saleem. I'm wearing a white dress shirt, speaking to you from the historic city of Peshawar, Pakistan. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the Director of Fellowships at Code for Pakistan. I'll start my talk by briefly sharing what Code for Pakistan does. So Code for Pakistan is a civic tech organization that has been working in Pakistan for the past 9 years. We are on a mission to develop a civic innovation ecosystem in Pakistan. In our mission to advance digital governance and civic engagement, we have been running different programs at the provisional and federal levels to promote digital co-creation, innovation, and involving citizens at the grassroots level. We have designed the KP Government Innovation Fellowship Program, which we have been running in partnership with the KP Government Information Technology Board and the World Bank since 2014. The fellowship program has been inspired by Code for America's fellowship program, and we have modeled and updated the program to the local context. So the main, the aim or the goal behind the fellowship program is to harness the power of the people and technology to develop digital solutions and to develop a governance, platform so that we can involve citizens at the grassroots level to work on digital solutions and digitization initiatives. So we have been running the fellowship program since 2014, and so far we have completed 7 cycles of the program. And in these 7 cycles, we have graduated 126 fellows, and we have we started with 12 part-time fellows, and over the years we shifted to 20 full-time fellows. And these fellows, they come from different backgrounds. They are technologists, they are researchers, and they have the passion to innovate and work with the government. And over the years, we have partnered with more than 30 government departments in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or the KP province in Pakistan. And we have developed 50 plus digital solutions. And these digital solutions are, they are different. They're online platforms, they are government websites, they are mobile applications, they are open data portals. And all these digital solutions have been created by involving citizens at each step of the process. And I also like to share that since we have been running the fellowship program since 2014, and Pakistan, their context similar to the global South. So we realized the need of involving more women graduates within our programs. So we also launched the KP Women Civic Digital Internship Program last year. And the aim behind the internship program was to involve women within the technology sector, within the civic tech sector, and also allow them to participate in the fellowship program as well. So the fellowship program is a 6 months, basically a 6 months program where we recruit different fellows with different skills, and these fellows work on different problem statements. So we collect these problem statements from different government departments, and the selection criteria is primarily focused on that how can we develop digital solutions that can empower citizens. So once these problem statements are shortlisted, our fellows work very closely with the government departments. And the way we develop these solutions, we use design thinking practices, we use citizen-centric approaches so that we can involve citizens from the the ideation phase, and we do different workshops, we do user testing, we do user research, and we involve citizen input at every step of the process so that the solutions that we are creating for the citizens benefits the end user and it meets the needs of the end user. Like I explained, we have created 50 plus solutions. So I'll quote some examples that we have created. Many complaint systems, like one of the areas that citizens need support from the government is, that there is a complaint redressal mechanism, and digital or online platforms provide a very good platform and bridge the gap between government and citizens. We have created open data portals, and one key focus area during our fellowship programs is our focus towards open source solutions, because on one hand, open source solutions are a significantly lower cost compared to proprietary solutions, which sometimes in countries like Pakistan, one barrier or to digitization is high cost of sustainability of solutions, and we are very mindful of that. Hence, we as a civic tech organization, we promote open source solutions, and also there's a drive to create open data, to train government on open data on these digital solutions. So we have also worked very closely with different government departments, and we have trained close to 400 government personnel on digitization initiatives, on open data usage, on how to sustain these digital solutions that we have created so far. I'm looking forward to engaging with all of you and taking your questions so that I can share my learnings and also take feedback, so that we can we are aiming that we can learn from the international community and incorporate some of the those learnings within our fellowship and internship programs as well. So over to you, Nyambura. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibraheem. Now I'd like to welcome Rafael to the screen. Welcome, Rafael, and please provide your opening remarks, and don't forget to begin with a self-description.
Okay, can you hear me well? Yes, okay. So, hello everybody. My name is Rafael Diniz. I work at Rise America. That's an NGO that works with communities, especially in South America, for allowing them, for supporting them in creating their own telecommunication infrastructure. One important project of Rise America is in Mexico, in Oaxaca, where we supported the creation of mobile telephony, community mobile telephony for indigenous communities in Oaxaca. And I will talk about the HERMES project that I helped to create, and I'm the lead developer. HERMES means high frequency emergency and rural multimedia exchange system. And the idea of this system is to provide telecommunications solution, a telecommunication solution for communities that have no access to any telecommunication access. We are focused on the Amazon rainforest in South America, where there are many indigenous and riverside communities which have no access to any telecommunication infrastructure. And we use the HF radio band to create these links between the communities and the nearest urban center where there is internet and telephony connection. The HF band is very important. The HF band by ITU, by the International Telecommunication Union, is defined by the frequency range between 3 megahertz and 30 megahertz of the radio spectrum. And it's very important because the ionosphere of the Earth that is located between, especially the part between 90 kilometers and 200 kilometers height, it reflects the waves of the HF band, so you can reach very far away places with relatively affordable equipment and very simple antenna installation. And so next slide, you can see an example of how an antenna looks like. It's very easy to build it and to install it. In the next slide, you can see how to install such antenna. Here we are installing it in a pole inside on top of a house. It's a simple dipole antenna made of wire and a small impedance matcher that's called balloon, where the coaxial cable enters. And the other end of this antenna, there is the radio that we developed, the telecommunication system that we developed. That's in the next slide. That inside it, there is a HF radio transceiver, a computer, a small computer, and a Wi-Fi router that people can connect to it. And for example, send emails, a picture, an audio message through the HF. This message will travel over HF to a gateway station that's exactly like this, but the only difference that is connected to the internet. And then this gateway station routes the email or the message through the internet to the destination host, to the destination partner. And also the other way, people in the internet can reach these faraway communities using this HF telecommunication system. In the next slide, you can see the architecture of the network, where there is a gateway station that is represented in this diagram in the bottom equipment, and then this equipment can connect to stations that are very far away, more than 1,000 kilometers away. We can establish the connection. Typically, the communities are located in the range of 500 kilometers radius, where there is a small urban center, and then the communities spread in the rivers typically, right? So this is just a diagram of the network. And this is very important for the communities because most of these communities are vulnerable to the action of loggers, to illegal mining activities, to invaders that get inside indigenous land. So having some system to communicate fast can make a very important difference to their lives, especially for communities, for example, that are 1 or 2 way by boat to the nearest phone connection, for example. So that's it. This is the brief introduction to what I'm working on. And I appreciate after that we have some discussion and synergies. And yeah, Thank you, Nyambura. Thank you for the opportunity. I pass the microphone.
Thank you so much, Rafael. And I actually wanted to say that I think it's really incredible the work that you've done, because the high frequency radio was kind of a forgotten technology. And it has now been repurposed to be able to provide modern connections to rural communities. So that's really amazing.
Thank you.
So last but certainly not least, we have Fadia. Fadia, welcome, and please provide your opening remarks, and don't forget to begin with a self-description.
Thank you, Nyambura. Hello, everyone. Very exciting to be here today. I am a North African woman with long curly hair that's dark, and I'm wearing a green t-shirt. I work as the operations lead and community manager of the Global Innovation Gathering. The Global Innovation Gathering is an organization that is a network based, that is formed on the connection of great people based from around the world, mostly in the Global South, countries of the Global South. And our members are basically change makers, innovators, maker spaces, all kinds of organizations or individuals that believe in a different approach to development and different way of or even approach to finding solution to their local communities that was not previously offered. So basically, we are Global South based. Most of our members are based in what could be called developing countries. And our aim as an organization is to try to connect these people so that they can exchange knowledge and experience, and even sometimes just personal understanding of each other through different platforms. We do that by convening once a year or twice a year physically in one of the big events that used to happen in Berlin or still happening in Berlin. It's called Republica. And the other aspect that we're trying to cultivate more now, specifically after COVID-19, is the digital aspect of meeting online and coming together to get to know each other more on more regular basis, but also discussing topics and thematic themes that are relevant to the community. My personal interest in what I do as a community manager came actually after I have moved to Germany to study media and culture management, to do my master's there, and then only to realize that I haven't met many citizens from neighboring countries to Egypt, like Libya, Sudan, or even Iraq, except in Germany, because that's how it has been for a very long time. The North, or countries of the global North, have been a platform where many people from the global South, where they meet. It was a platform where we learned, but also met each other. And to me, that was the spark at the beginning, how much we've learned across that opportunity of meeting in Germany, how much we've learned from each other, how much we've exchanged, and how was this opportunity not very apparent when I was living in Egypt. And from here came that excitement for me personally on how can we connect more, and how can we make use of these connections and make sure that maybe this South-South collaborations could come of benefit. And then slowly that even perspective of meeting people from the global South expanded to reach to the Latin American continent, to the Asian continent, Southeast Asia. And it just opened up a whole new world for me personally, where I understood that so many countries from the global South might be sharing a lot in terms of understanding of the world, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of even challenges, and that there might be a lot of things in common that could bring us together to learn and exchange. So this is basically where my own interest stems. to work as a community manager in the Global Innovation Gathering. And of course, later on in the discussion, we'd be happy to introduce more of the projects that we're working on and that new approach to development. Mainly this understanding that the user and the citizen should be at the center of the process of design, of education, of even finding solution to the local communities. Yeah, very excited to be here today with everyone and looking forward to continue the conversation.
Thank you so much, Fadia. So the next section of the discussion today will be amongst the panelists and myself. And I would like to open the floor to Fadia, Rafael, Ibraheem, if you have questions, or I could also kick us off.
I have a question for Rafael.
Yes, please.
I'm wondering if you can share with us more on the process of approaching those communities. Since from my understanding, you yourself, you came from a city, or you're an urbanite, what we call. How was it you trying to introduce this HERMES and this platform and this technology to the communities? What was your approach? How did you handle that?
Right. First, I got involved with indie media and the free radio movement in São Paulo, then in Campinas, in the south of Brazil. And then, well, I really like to work with radio, especially because we had a free radio in the campus. And the free radio was really a multidisciplinary place. A lot of people from anthropology, from social sciences, history, doctors, computer scientists like me. And then we got in touch with a researcher that was working with the creation of the first reserves in Brazil, in Acre state. And I always used to hear that one of their complaints of these communities was about communication, that they had no communication at all. And the thing that they always used to ask us is to install radios, two-way communication radios, HF radios. And then we went there and we made a project, and we started to install in Acre, in Reserva Extrativista do Alto Juruá. We started installing voice analog HF radios to them. And as a computer science, I say, well, why don't we transmit digital data in these HF radios through these HF radios? And then it all started. And then I got in touch with Rhizomatica sometime later, and then yeah, and then the history continues, and they still have this need for 50 years already. And then we decided to develop this HERMES system, and we are already developing it for around 4 years. And now we reached the state that we can really install for the communities. We started to produce these units, and not only use off-the-shelf equipment, because we realized after we started using off-the-shelf equipment, they really made for voice and not really good for audio, for digital data. And then, okay, so we need to build our own hardware, our own software, and we did, and we are still doing. And this is a long story told short.
Of course. Rafael, actually, if I could follow up with that question, it's always a much longer story than you can fit into 5 minutes. But how do you hope to expand the project beyond Latin America to perhaps areas that would need and can benefit from HERMES, places where there's been disasters, places where even other rural communities outside of Latin America? Do you think this will be a possibility in the future?
Yes, certainly, yes. I think we at Rhizomatica have a limited force or limited amount of people that work on it. So we need help, I think, at least in two ways. One way is partnerships to identify places that need such technology and to help them to deploy this technology. And the other help that I really need is to really produce these radios, this equipment, because right now we had not scaled the production. We have an almost artisanal production. We produce one by one, assembling the boards. Some boards we run in China to produce the boards, but many components we solder them by ourselves still till today. So we need help to scale the production, not only in Brazil, but in other places. The more places we have that can produce this equipment, the better, because exporting equipment, is always a hassle. There are taxes to be paid, import taxes to be paid, restrictions to import parts. So the more places we can produce this is better. And of course, with the software development, and the social development, software development is an area with really all the aspects of this project can be evolved in a collaborative way. All the software for this project is free software. And yeah, I mean, the HF technology, as you mentioned, Nyambura, is the civil HF technology is stuck on time, like 50 year stuck on time. The military HF technology is very advanced indeed, but the civil technology for HF is kind of stuck in the 60s when satellites started to be launched. The HF technology kind of the development stopped, kind of halted. So there are many things to do, and I think the satellites are complementary to HF, but in a way for real emergencies, for this kind of communities that need affordable communication, HF really has a important role, I think. And yeah.
Excellent, thank you. It's really amazing to see what you've been able to accomplish. And I think going forward, it will be great to understand how partnerships can further the HERMES system. Ibraheem, I see you nodding along a lot.
So I wanted to ask one question from Rafael.
Yes,
So
please.
as we are all aware, Pakistan experienced very severe floods a couple of months ago. So how would you suggest that whether there is potential to use this technology in countries like Pakistan, especially in disasters like floods or like earthquakes, where communication networks cannot be sustained. There's not a lot of penetration of the grid, of the national grid. There are areas which are not connected to the grid. Whether there is potential to power it through renewable energy, whether there is potential to expand it further, whether we can create it as an open source hardware project where collaborators or engineers can give feedback or suggestions. So if I would love to hear your feedback on that, whether that is a possibility, whether we can use this technology for disasters like floods in countries like Pakistan.
Well, I think that's a very good technology for this use case like floods in Pakistan. I think, as you know it, there are many people that are very tech savvy in Pakistan. And as a start, I think if you could get one or two people that are interested in testing this involved to study a bit how the system works, and with a small budget, we can really buy the equipment, and not only the equipment, but some foldable solar panels, that are easy to carry even in a backpack, small batteries, and then really simulate, like in case of an emergency, you can open your solar panel, put the battery on top of any place that you have nearby, put the equipment, and transmit the message, the data you need. I think this would really be an interesting project. I would recommend first to do a trial to demonstrate, and then of course, if there is more interest to scale this it's interesting you mentioned about open hardware, because this hardware, the HF radio we are using is a project from a ham radio operator from India called Ashar Farham. So it's close to Pakistan, much closer than we are, and we indeed are importing these boards from India. And so for you in Pakistan to start, you can, for example, start with this project from these men in Pakistan, in India, sorry, and of course evolve, because there are many areas to evolve of this board. It's a not very complex board, but also not very not with a lot of features, let's say like this, and it's already an open hardware, so you don't start from scratch. You can start from this project from Ashar and evolve it to address the needs you have in Pakistan.
That sounds very interesting. I'll definitely reach out for more information. Thank you.
Let's be in touch.
Great question, Ibraheem. So now, if I could also ask you a question. You've been working with the government a lot in Pakistan with the fellowship program, and I wanted to ask, working with government departments can often be difficult. They can be bureaucratic. The process can take longer than ordinarily you would hope for. So what advice or what are some of your learnings in being able to positively engage a government and to get results the way you have?
Thank you. That's a great question, Nyambura. So if you talk about our work at Code for Pakistan, the way we are different from some civic society organization is that we work in collaboration with the government, and we are of the view that government is a very key stakeholder in countries like Pakistan in the global south, where there is overpopulation, there are lack of resources, the digitization initiatives, they're not up to the mark. So we believe when we started working that in order for us to create the most impact, we need to partner up with the government. And over the years, in our experience of working with the government, we think that by developing programs and by involving the government in the development of those programs, and also collaborating and facilitating the government in social development. So if I talk of the example of the fellowship program, like I mentioned, that it was modeled like the Code for America fellowship program, but the thing that we modified was the social development aspect of it. We hire fresh graduates who have 1 year of experience, and these fellows are hired by the government and they are paid by the government of close to $300 stipend. And the social development part helps the government do something for the citizens as well. And on the hindsight, these citizens can be involved with the government. They can work very closely with the government on developing digital solutions. So it's sort of a win-win model for the citizens and the government. And Code for Pakistan bridges the gap between the government and citizens. So by developing these different models, similarly, like I mentioned, the internship program. So one thing that we did for the internship program was to make this program remote or online. And we did that because if you talk about the KP province, a lot of women, there are some social and cultural barriers that they can't participate in these programs. And we made this program remote based on our learning of executing the fellowship program amidst the global pandemic. And we realized that technology can play a vital role in enabling people to join these programs from the comfort of their homes, from being remote. So we developed the Women Internship Program, and we gave an opportunity to women in remote parts of KP. They're the federally administered areas, which were previously, federally administered, but they are now part of the KP province. Especially women, women graduates who sometimes cannot pursue their careers after graduation because of social and cultural barriers, because of challenges to transportation, because for them to even avail an internship program means that they have to daily travel 5 hours by road. So we leverage technology and we leverage different programs to facilitate the citizens, and also work very closely with the government, which has a mandate to facilitate the citizens. And we support the government. Like when we started initially back in 2014, there was not much of a concept of digitization within the government. And over the years, in collaborating and working closely with the government, we realized an uptick in the adoption of our solutions. When 3G, 4G networks launched in Pakistan, where digital literacy among the masses increased, so the government realized that yes, there is a need from the citizens as well, that they need digital solutions. And when in 2020, when COVID hit, the demand for digitization increased rapidly. So we saw an uptick, an increase in the demand by government departments. Like I can quote you an example that usually when you used to collect problem statements, we used to get on average 30 problem statements. But last year during the 7th cycle, we received close to 60. So the demand from the government almost doubled after the pandemic. So I think Code for Pakistan truly believes that like in order to like in countries with context similar to Pakistan, in order to create the most impact, you have to work collaboratively with the government, and you have to consider all these areas of empowering citizens, of Pakistan having a lot of youth in a youth bulge in Pakistan. You have to create programs that benefit the youth somehow. So these have been some of the learnings that we do at Code for Pakistan. So yeah.
Thank you, Ibraheem. It's great to hear that the government has been very receptive and has even seen the benefit of the programs to be able to reach out with the problems that they have at hand and say what they need and be able to like engage citizens. That's really important and impactful. Fadia, did you have a question for?
No, I was just wondering, I mean, just because part of our network, I think there is some noise outside. I hope you can't hear that. I was thinking about the solutions that are being developed by the fellows from this program. Do you have, I don't know, some kind of understanding or a policy that makes these solutions open source, for example, so that it allows these solutions to be constantly developed? Or, yeah, I was just wondering if that's part of your program somehow.
Thank you so much for your question, Fadia. So yes, we have a focus of developing open source solutions, and we have a very active GitHub profile. You can visit our GitHub, and we maintain the source code of all these solutions, and we welcome other organizations internationally who can use the source code and develop similar solutions. So this is essentially a criteria that we want to create solutions which are open source, which are open source solutions are sustainable. They are lower cost compared to proprietary solutions, and also the aspect of replication that like in different cities, like right now we are planning to expand the fellowship model to the federal government, and we have partnered with different partners. Like during the pandemic, we partnered with the National Institute of Health, and we ran a pilot fellowship program with the National Institute of Health on a health tech focused fellowship program. So the aim is that we create open source solutions which are sustainable, which are replicable, and even after like if the government decides to move away from the solution, that solution can be taken up by different partners. So this is a key focus area for us in the fellowship programs.
Thank you, Ibraheem. Actually, as you were speaking, I was thinking, Fadia, in your work, have you ever encountered that you actually do engage some governments in bridging the gap between the South and the North?
So a lot of our members actually work on that. So part of the vision of, let me go a little bit more into the culture of our members and the culture of the Global Innovation Gathering. So basically, we're a network that's based on openness, diversity, transparency, and a new understanding of that intersection between digitalization and what it does to the communities. So it's no longer about those bottom-up, bottom solutions, was actually vice versa, this belief that the communities know what's best for them, right? What kind of technologies they need, what kind of solutions they need. Then comes the technology as a factor that can help find that solution, right? So a lot of our members work on this, like an education and makerspaces, like the maker education, or in teaching code as well to younger generations, so that they can grow up to know how to develop their own solutions. And there's the other aspect from our members where they work on they work like either parallelly with government, but through finding policy briefs, for example, recommendations on how can governments integrate more an open and inclusive way of approaching communities that are looking for development. Or, for example, when it comes to data, how could governments change their policies on data privacy? These kind of, work.
Okay, super. Yeah, sometimes it's the citizens who need to kind of come to the government and say, this is we have expertise, this is what you should be doing, or this is what can be improved. So thank you very much, everybody, for the excellent questions between yourselves. Now I would like to just go on to some of the questions that we've had from the audience. We have had some questions submitted as people were registering and as the conversation has gone on in the chat. So the first question is, what are the roles of civil society organizations to address the digital divide and increase digital literacy and access for marginalized populations in rural communities to digital development? So how do civil society organizations kind of bridge that gap between rural communities and digital in development? So.
Who wanna talk?
Rafael, you can begin.
Okay. Well, I think Fadia should complement me, as she's the scholar about the topic. But well, I think the use of the telecommunication systems is very important, right? Because we see in this world we live, like systems like Facebook or Instagram, they don't really unite people. They don't really strengthen the communities, and they don't really improve their lives. So I think the focus is exactly to provide a communication system that can improve the life of the people. For example, HERMES, it's not internet. You cannot access YouTube or Facebook. It's a very low bitrate communication system. And people in some indigenous communities, when some of them, a small amount of them have internet, they turn it off during the day, because they don't want the child to stay on internet watching YouTube videos or TikTok or stuff like that, because they see as harmful. And our system does not even allow access to such kind of content. It's really, the content is defined by the collective of the community. And of course, there is people use also for personal communication, just like a telephone. But they kind of don't want everybody to get in touch with all the content available on the internet, because they think it's harmful. And for an organization purpose, for example, they use the system to exchange the price of the goods, the price of the nuts, the price of the products they produce in the forest, to improve their economy. So they focus on what is important to improve their lives, their economy, their personal lives, but they don't want to be totally open to all the technologies that sometimes it's promised that to improve their lives and in the end make their life worse, you know. So I think this is just some thoughts I wanted to say, and I pass to Fadia and Ibraheem to also comment, because
Yes. Yes, I would like to add to that one of the things also noticeable between a lot of our members that are based in the global south is how digitalization kind of addresses a lot the oral community, right? Like we a lot of times talk about orality in the developing world or the global south, and as opposed to literacy, the more literate societies in the global north. And one of the things that I think digitalization enables is that through audio and video content, you are able to address a wider range of people, of societies, of communities that might have not had the same level or the same, let's say, the same structured education, for example, that a lot of, you know, literate ways kind of offer. And this is one of the things that, for example, is being now cultivated. A lot of this video content for DIY, for even e-learning, all of this. And one of the things that's very apparent, for example, in a country like like Egypt, is that the government is still trying to follow up with this, right? Like this whole notion of digitalization, it was like this big scandal in Egypt with the new education ministry, for example, when we talked about digitalization, the first thing they did was put a big budget of buying tablets, you know, for students. But in the same time, completely foregoing the fact that we don't have the infrastructure or even the educational caliber, the teachers, the trainings necessary for schools to kind of integrate a step like that. As opposed to that, a lot of grassroots spaces and maker spaces and hack spaces, they really work on the ground with young people to learn all kinds of content, you know, coding, robotics, all kinds of educational material that could be helpful. And they do have the language, right, to speak the language of young people that is already on top of things because they've grown up with mobile phones, for example. So this is one of the things that that we are trying, for example, or a lot of our members are trying to kind of shed the light on the role of grassroots development as opposed to this top-down approach of, oh, this is what's happening outside, so let's kind of implement this. That's what we need. We need another computer. We need another tablet. And I feel, yeah, like including maker education, for example, this has been one of the things that a lot of our members are active, developing curriculums for how could you enhance innovation and creativity at a young age for the student to come out having a different understanding of their society and their ability to find solution for their communities, as opposed to being a very passive receiver of information, which is unfortunately how the education system works in a lot of our countries, right? Like this is what we've been, how we've been raised for 13 to 16 years in schools, is sitting down and receiving certain way of information. And I mean, I have a lot to say on that topic, but yeah, I don't want to like hijack the conversation. I feel Ibraheem has something for sure to say about this.
No, Fadia, thank you very much. That was very impassioned. And I think what we've learned from all three of you is that really it has to start from the grassroots and looking at what do people on the ground need and how do you then co-create solutions rather than, as you say, top down, just kind of parachuting in. And so in the interest of time, I wanted to move on to the next question. Somebody would like to know, how can someone possibly move from consultation to co-creation when there's no form of transparency in project execution?
That's a big question.
That is a very big question.
I mean, just briefly, because I think this is like very much at the core of how we try to operate as a network, right? We talk about all these concepts of open documentation, and that's actually part of how we do all our projects, is about open documentation to the public, but also some of the projects, for example, we had this Carables project, which was a project that aimed to create healthcare devices based on the user, right? With the user. And then we've created a platform online where we can document this open hardware devices that have been created so that others could come and contribute to it and also learn from it. And that came, and then suddenly came Corona. We were working on this 1.5 years before Corona, and then COVID hit, and suddenly everyone was like making masks and sharing things about and aerosol boxes and sharing all these devices that came so much in handy. And surprisingly, at the time, the governments were so late, and all the structures, you know, were very, very, very paralyzed in the crisis mode. And here it was very evident what we were advocating for and what we were doing just came popping out. And I feel it is this understanding that innovation will come with the citizen and the user at the center of it, and that it's a two-way process. It's no longer about, you know, researchers and academics writing down what they think is best and how to do it, but it's also understanding that it's a process where you learn from the citizen and you feed back to the researcher, and the researcher with their knowledge could also do the same. So this like very dynamic flow is what we try to adapt through our projects in the Global Innovation Gathering. And that's also what we are learning from our members and how most of our members are operating in their own projects. So I feel it's that culture, like it's a snowball that will grow as you practice it.
Yes, as you cultivate it. Ibraheem, did you have a comment to make on that? I know Code for Pakistan has some open source work that you have also done.
Yes. So on the co-creation part, we did a GovTech hackathon last year, and one thing that we did was we consolidated problem statements from the citizens, and we received close to 1,400 problem statements from all across Pakistan of different citizens voicing their opinion that these are the solutions that they want. And that was followed up by a hackathon where some of the citizens that shared those problem statements developed solutions for those problems during the hackathon. So I think it's very important to involve citizens in digitization initiatives. And on the transparency aspect, I think what we can do is we can involve citizens through different programs. I think if there is involvement of citizens, if there is structured involvement where they can see how a particular solution is being developed and how their feedback affects different features of the solution, I think that brings in transparency. And through the parliamentary system, through different legislations, like we have right to information laws coming into practice in Pakistan, there is a right to open data, you know. If we have these legislations, we have these frameworks that can enable more transparency and make the process of innovation and digitization more open and more public. I think there is a lot of value in developing programs, you know, involving citizens from different spheres of life. They can be you know, technical, you know, fresh graduates. They can be, you know, mid-tier professionals. They can be other folks within the communities at the grassroots level. But I think giving them a voice, giving them a platform is very, very important. I think governments are realizing that, but civil societies and civic tech organizations have the responsibility and you know, to advocate for that, to lobby for that. And the more you know, programs we create, the more we involve citizens through you know, different hackathons or you know, write-a-thons or you know, community events, you know, open halls, the more we give the chance to the people to voice their opinion, to you know, to make them feel that they are being heard by the government. I think that can solve the transparency or the trust deficit that the citizens have on their governments. So technology can play a very vital role, and civil society organizations can enable, the can bridge the gap using technology.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so finally, for our final question today, thank you for bearing with us on the time front. This comes from Suba Churchill, and this is for Rafael. Suba says he was left wondering how the high frequency and rural multimedia exchange system can be adapted to promote meaningful citizens' participation and co-creation of state-funded development processes in Kenya. So in Kenya, while we have the most progressive constitution providing for citizens' participation in the management of public affairs and mobile telephone penetration is quite high, public participation at the national and county levels of government remain quite low. And so leading to white elephant projects that do not meet the needs of people. So is there a way that the HERMES system can increase or promote meaningful citizen participation?
Well, I think as he mentioned, I also want to comment about Ololade question in the chat, but as the constitution is open to the participation of the society and respect the freedoms, I think it's important for the society first to take control of the communication means, not only the message, but also the medium is important, because when you leave all the medium in the hands of the government, you leave also part of the autonomy. And I think it's up to the civil society to organize and to shape what we want, let's say like this, and not only expect from the government to provide it, but also, if it's possible, to push the government to provide these platforms, this interaction outside the capitalist companies that only want our data to make profit on it. It's very important. And I think this helps a lot, because not be in a platform that is created for profit already makes a lot of difference. And also regarding the Ololade question, Ololade Ariola, is very important. For example, in a condition where there is a communication breakdown or intentional closure of the internet or the telephony network, I think HERMES is indeed a good solution. For example, if you are in a country where there is an internet shutdown, but you have people in another country that is like, let's say, 1,500 kilometers away, that you can reach through HF radio. I think this is relevant, and this can indeed provide a communication medium to the outside world when there are communication breakdowns. So the answer is yes, it can be used in this context also. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Rafael, for answering the final questions. And thank you so much to our speakers for your thoughtful contributions today. We've heard a lot about the different projects and the importance of involving communities from the bottom up rather than top down. So I also wanted to say a very big thank you to our international sign interpreters and captioner for their work during this session. And finally, thank you to you, the audience, for joining us today and for your fantastic questions. Our next digital dialogue will look at legitimate self-defense, civil society, digital surveillance. And this will be our last one of 2022, and it will take place on Thursday, the 15th of December at 4 p.m. Central European Time. If you have an interest in our previous dialogues, these are all available as videos and as audio on the Center's YouTube and podcast channels, which will be placed which I already see that they're placed in the chat. So feel free to have a look at those.